teacher, Professor Lamakaan, late Professor Lamakaan, where from I started, and what I am today is all because of his efforts and his ethics which he has incorporated in me. Ashar Parwan was telling that I covered the whole of India in the Sufism. No, I have restricted myself only to the Deccan. I mostly worked on the Deccan for the last 35-40 years. I have been working on that. I started my PhD work on the Sufis of the Deccan, and I would like to tell you a small story about that. And initially I was under the supervision of Professor Chancellor. After I had completed my MA, he called me and he said, "Are you interested in PhD program?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You should work on Sufis of the Deccan because it is a virgin field." And the next sentence was, "Come back to me after 3 months and tell me what is the defect in this topic." He was taken aback and I said, what are you asking me? He said, "Tell me what is the defect in this topic. I am asking you to work on the Sufis of the Deccan area." And in this area we have the Muslims started coming into Deccan somewhere around the times of Alauddin, Jalaluddin Khilji, then change of capital Muhammad bin Tughlaq, 1327, which is corresponding to 727 at that particular point of time, and a large number of Muslim population was sent from Delhi to this particular region, and it is reported that Sufis in number 700 planquins they came and settled in the first instance. Then again there is a second batch of 700 planquins in which the Sufis, the rich people and different type of classes of the society came and settled down in this particular region called Sultabad, which became the capital of second capital of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, which he has shifted, as I said, in 1327. Then the very nobles whom he has brought, the Amiran-e-Sadha. Amiran-e-Sadha means these they revolted against Muhammad bin Tughlaq. When Muhammad bin Tughlaq was in Deccan, the nobles from North India, they revolted. While he was in North, the South revolted, and therefore he was in great trouble after changing the capital. And you should remember that those who rebelled in this region called as Sultabad or Sabad, the first Muslim independent kingdom which was established was the Bahmani kingdom. 1447 to 1538, close to about 200 years they ruled in this particular region. And when the Bahmani dynasty came to an end because of its downfall, their 5 provincial governors, they declared 5 independent kingdoms. One was the first was the Nizam Shahis of Ahmednagar, second was the Adil Shahis of Bijapur, the third was the Qutub Shahis of Golconda, the fourth was Bari Shahis, and the fifth was Imad Shahis. These are the 5 dynasties which came into existence. And you should remember that Bidar was annexed by Bijapur and Berar was annexed by Ahmednagar, that is Nizam Shahis. 3 remained, and these 3 dynasties declared Shiism as their state religion after they established their contact with Safavid Persia in Persia, which was established in the year 1501. The story begins from Bahmani dynasty. You should remember that having said that these were the dynasties, the Bahmanis, then we had the Qutub Shahis, Adil Shahis and the Nizam Shahis. These were the 3 powerful kingdoms. Then after that, the entry of Aurangzeb, and then he appoints Chief Uli Khan, that is Nizam-ul-Mulk the first, and in 1734, if I remember correctly, the Asafjai state of Hyderabad was established, which is called as the Nizam state of Hyderabad. So I will speak about these 4 or 5 dynasties, Bahmanis to an extent, then to the Adil Shahis, then the Qutub Shahis, and then the Asif Shahis. I will be speaking about that. But before I get into the composite culture in the Deccan region, which I have explained just now, you are all aware of the fact also that Islam appeared on the Indian side for the first time on the western coast of India, that is Cape Cameron, then the eastern coast of India, and then from Calcutta they used to go to Japan and China. That was the trade route, which was ancient trade route which has been there. Even before the birth of Islam, the Arabs used to do this particular trade. They were the dominant force in this particular region. After Islam appeared, all of them were converted to the fold of Islam, and a large number of traders settled in the coastal towns of India, starting from Goa and Bhatkal and then into Kerala, and then into Cape Cameroon, then into Sri Lanka, then on to the eastern coast, Calcutta, and then up to Japan, China and other places in the eastern coast. This was the established trade route. Therefore, what I am trying to tell you is, Muhammad bin Qasim, when we ask the students, they say, when did the Muslims arrive in India? They say Muhammad bin Qasim. And Muhammad bin Qasim is 712. Much before 712, large number of Muslims had come. A number of mosques have been established. Malik bin Kafur, Malik bin Habib, and various companions of the Prophet had settled in South India. They preached Islam at that particular region. What I am trying to tell you is, even that region was ruled by the non-Muslims, the Hindus. Even they supported the traders. They exempted them from the taxes, and cordial relations were very much there in South India. To give you two examples, Tarachand informs us, and his glorious book is The Influence of Islam on Indian Culture, if you all remember. It was Tarachand informs us that Kund Pandya gave 6 villages in grant for the maintenance of a mosque at Gorepallia. Raja Veerbalala had a contingent of 20,000 Muslims. The Muslim ruler of Hannawar owed allegiance to his viceroy Hariyappa Odia. These are some of the examples which I am citing from the lower south, not Deccan, right? So which in fact means that with the entry of the Muslims, there was no big problem. They were all living cordially. Mosques have been constructed. Muslim preachers were preaching in that region. Taxes have been exempted. And the point is that all Hindu rulers, they welcome them so that the trade flourishes, so that the economy goes up and so on and so forth. Coming to the Bahmani kingdom, which is the first Muslim kingdom in Deccan, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the one. Leftist authors have said Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a fanatic. Maybe he was a fanatic, but hundreds and thousands of people died while he transferred his people from Delhi to Daulatabad. Not that Farishta writes that even cats and dogs were not to be seen in Delhi, which is wrong, absolutely wrong. Because Nasiruddin Chirag Dehlavi, all his Khulafa and disciples of Nizamuddin Awliya, they were very much there in Delhi only. All the people who related to Amir Khusro, they were very much there in Delhi. The entire nobility was still in Delhi. So there was a mechanism which was there in Delhi for the last 300 years, and so that cannot be dismantled by just saying, okay, you move from here and go to Daulatabad and settle down there. No, Farishta is wrong. The very population was very much there. Only some of the nobilities, some ulama scholars of religion, that is Quran, Hadith, Tafsir and Fiqh, and some of the Sufis were sent to Daulatabad so that it becomes easier to establish the Muslim state. What I am trying to tell you is, Daulatabad became the first Muslim urban center in Deccan. 1300 to 1327, when the capital was shifted, first Muslim urban center was established. 700 Sufis in planquins came for the first time. All of them and most of them were the disciples and Khulafa of Nizamuddin Awliya. Second batch again, Nasiruddin Chiragli and all of them came and settled. It became easier for the ruler to establish the law, to establish the law and order, to establish the ethics in the society, first Muslim urban society, which was established in Daulatabad. You should remember that Farishta informs us that later during the 15th century, Krishna Deva Roy, the ruler of Vijayanagar kingdom, ordered the recruitment of Muslims into his services and allotted them states, that is Jagirs, and also erected mosques for their prayers and so on and so forth. The enrollment of Muslims continued during the times of not only Krishna Deva Roy II, but also during the times of Rama Raju. It is reported by Nunzi, one of the travelers, that instead of salam, the nobility, Muslim nobility which used to appear before Rama Raju, they used to say Salima. Instead of salam, they used to say Salima. And it is reported that a copy of the Quran was kept when on the right hand side of the ruler called Rama Raju in Vijayanagar kingdom. Most of us today will not believe this, but it is recorded. It is an authentic source. A contemporary traveler of the times of Rama Raju and Krishna Deva Roy has written in his book, in his travelogue. The rulers of Vijayanagar Empire, you will not believe, they used to put on chudidar pajamas. They used to put up running ropes. They used to put up the kula, that is cap, as was done by the Muslim rulers in the various parts of Deccan. So, in their appearance, they also used to look like Muslim rulers. Also, I must tell you that a large era of peace and tranquility between the Bahmani kingdom and the Vijayanagar kingdom, which were at loggerheads with each other because there was a common boundary. You should remember that between the longest era of 10 years of between 1401 and 1410 was during, 20 years of peaceful era between the Bahmanis and the Vijayanagar kingdom was between 1401 to 1420. I am talking of Bahmanis and the Vijayanagar. Feroz Shah was the one who visited the Vijayanagar kingdom. He stayed there as a royal guest for a long time, married a Hindu princess, came back, and the Rani lived as a Rani in Gulbarga, which was the first capital of the Bahmani kingdom. Also, you should remember, it is important to note that even today, it is also important to note that Alauddin Hasan Bahman Shah, the founder of the Bahmani kingdom, Bahmani is not because of Brahman, but because of Bahman Isfendiyar, because Alauddin Hasan Bahman Shah was a direct descendant of Bahman Isfendiyar, which is the royal family of Iran. This man was the first Muslim ruler in India who said no jizya should be collected from the non-Muslims in lieu of the army to get into the armies. No jizya. Jizya was banned by the first Muslim ruler, and he is the Bahmani ruler, Alauddin Hasan Bahman Shah. You must remember that even today, the death anniversary of the 9th ruler of the Bahmani kingdom, Ahmad Shah, who is buried at Ashtur in Bidar, is celebrated by the chief of the Lingayat sect. He is known as Janagam, who comes in a big procession from Gulbarga by a train. When I was doing my PhD and when I was riding my motorcycle ADX 5395, I used to accompany, that is the only number I remember, I accompanied this procession which came from Gulbarga by train and got down at the Bidar station, and then they formed a procession and went with a band baja right up to the town of, up to the small village of Ashtur. And this chief of the Lingayat sect called Janagam was wearing a cap like a darwesh. He was having a running robe. He was having chudidar pajama. He was looking like a Muslim saint. He is the one who goes to the shrine where they stay for 3 days and celebrate his death anniversary. The entire thing was done by the Lingayat people. And also you should remember that this particular death anniversary of Ahmad Shah is not celebrated according to the Muslim calendar called Hijra calendar. It is celebrated according to the Hindu calendar. A death anniversary of a Muslim ruler celebrated by a Hindu saint, chief of the Lingayat sect of Karnataka, which is famous even today, is celebrated by this man who looks like a Muslim. A lot of Gana, Vajana, Khawali, everything will take place. Food will be served to the poor and the needy and the destitute and so on and so forth. A halla gulla for a period of 3 days. I was staying there and I slept in the mosque which is of this size. That's all. I remember still that. I do not know whether the procession still comes or not, but the fact remains that this is one of the important things you should remember. Also you should remember the fusion of culture was not from the Bahmani kingdom alone, but this particular fusion of culture continues even during the Adil Shahi and the Qutub Shahi period. The fusion of culture continued even with the establishment of the Qutub Shahis and Adil Shahis. The fourth ruler of the Qutub Shahi dynasty, Ibrahim Qutub Shah, was in exile for a period of 7 years in Vijayanagar, because the people were likely to kill him, and therefore he was in exile. There was problem of succession and so on and so forth. In those days, it was just like that. And killing somebody was nothing. It was a peanut-like thing. And so he had lived for 7 years. And while he was in Vijayanagar kingdom, he learned Telugu to such an extent that he used to speak Telugu language fluently. And he was a great scholar. You should also remember that when he became the ruler, he invited Telugu pandits, poets, scholars of various sciences in the religion of Hinduism and so on and so forth. And his court was full of Telugu scholars and Telugu poets. Addanki Gangadhara Kavi, Kundukuri Rudra Kavi, and Ponnaganti Telangana Kavi were in his court. They were the great personalities of that time. Also you should remember, Gangadhara Kavi was the poet laureate of his court. Ibrahim Qutb Shah, Shia man, forefathers hailing from Iran, all the history is Islamic history. And who is the poet laureate of the court of Ibrahim Qutb Shah? It was Gangadhara Kavi who was the poet laureate. And Ibrahim Qutb Shah was, his court was full of learned men, scholars of Vedas, Shastras, Purnas, Vyakanas, and cognate sciences. It never looked like a Muslim darbar. It always used to look like a Hindu darbar. That's what Harun Khan Sherwani writes in his book, The Qutb Shahi Dynasty. The Telugu poets considered Golconda as their home. And in their poetry, they referred to him as Malik Abraham. What is the term which has been used by this poet for the ruler who is Ibrahim Shah? Malik Abraham. That is, Ibrahim alayhi salam se la rahe hain. Wahan se hai ye. Because he was the prophet, Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim Qutb Shah was the ruler. That's why he has been referred to in their poetry as Malik Abraham. Later the Qutb Shahi rulers also issued bilingual farmans. Bilingual farmans in the sense which are available to you in archives, which is at Tarnaka. The documents are, top will be in Persian and the same translation will be in Telugu language. Not exactly Telugu language, at that point of time it is called Modi language, not Prime Minister Modi. A number of Hindus were appointed to an important position during the Qutb Shahi period. Akkanna and Madanna are the best examples. They were the Peshwas of the Golconda or the Qutb Shahi dynasty. Also remember that Muhammad Quli Qutb Shah was a peace-loving man. He never used to indulge into warfare and so on and so forth. All the time he was busy in poetry, poem, and so on and so forth. You should remember he appointed a large number of non-Muslims in his court, and some of the examples are Raya Rao, Aswa Rao, and many others who were appointed into important administrative positions. You should also remember that during the Qutb Shahi period, the revenue of the entire state was collected not by the Muslims, but by the Brahmins. Similarly, you should also remember that the entire revenue during the Adil Shahi period was not collected by the Muslims, but it was collected by the Marathas. And therefore, you can understand and see what kind of society was there, what kind of people lived there, and so on and so forth. He also appointed Pettametta Somyaji Kabil as his poet laureate. Ganesha Panditulu was appointed as Samasthana Panditulu. Kami Reddy, Malla Reddy, Jimma Mantri were given important literary positions in his court. I am talking of the Muhammad Quli Qutb Shah. Muhammad Quli Qutb Shah, who left his poetic collection called Kulliyat, is in Dakhni language. That particular entire diwan is available to you in Salarjung Library, Salarjung Museum, and on the top we have the best manuscript library of Asia called as the Salarjung Library. It is this Kulliyat written by this Muhammad Quli Qutb Shah are available in Dakhni language in Salarjung Library. Those who are interested can go and see that. Wonderful piece. You should remember that in his Dakhni poetry, he writes hundreds and thousands of poems of small size about Basant. He writes about Diwali. He writes about Dasera. he writes about the two Eidain, that is Bakr Eid and the Ramzan ki Eid, right? Also you should remember a large number of poems are there on the harvesting seasons, because most of the harvesting was done in the rural areas by the non-Muslims. Muslim population was only urban oriented, it was not rural oriented. Rural oriented population, on that he has written hundreds of poems in Dakhni language. He also issued bilingual formats during his period, Persian and Modi language, not exactly Telugu language. This particular state of affair of patronization by the rulers of the large number of non-Muslims and non-Muslims celebrating the death anniversaries and so on and so forth, not only ended with the Qutb Shahis, but it also continued during the Adil Shahi period. Adil Shahi rulers issued bilingual formats in Persian and Marathi, because that region, they used to speak Marathi at that particular region. He gave grants to scholars, places of worship, without the distinction of caste, creed and religion. Welfare of the people was at his heart. As the city of Bijapur increased in vastness, he laid water channels from Chandbauli. There is a well called Chandbauli in Bijapur, and constructed a Taura waterworks, which used to supply water to the entire town. Drinking water facility was created by this particular man. I am talking of the 15th century. Even some of the drainage system which was done by the 7th Nizam of Hyderabad, Mir Usman Ali Khan, is doing better than what present day drainage system is doing in Hyderabad. Also you should remember, he was a great lover of book and used to have a huge library in his court. I am talking of Adil Shahis. You should remember that to this library, not a Muslim scholar, a alim or a Sufi was appointed, but as Vaman Pandit was appointed as the librarian of this particular court, which is the Shahi library of the Adil Shahi ruler. Ibrahim Adil Shah II called himself as Abala Bali. Abala Bali means the protector of the weak, because he used to look after the people, and the masses in turn used to call him Jagat Guru. Therefore he was known as Ibrahim Adil Shah Jagat Guru II. The entire title was like that. And you should remember, Jagat Guru means preceptor of the world, because of his fairness, because of his justice and love for his people. He himself was a great musician, and he left a book called as Kitab-e-Noras, which is one of the best, which has been translated, if I remember correctly, into Persian by Dr. Nazir Ahmad, say about 70 years back. Kitab-e-Noras was written in Persian, and it is nothing but, it is all about music. A ruler writing a book in Persian on the various tunes and music and so on and so forth, called as Kitab-e-Noras. Ibrahim Jagat Guru was a devotee of goddess Saraswati. He was a devotee of goddess Saraswati and music, the goddess of music, goddess Saraswati, and the deity of wisdom called as Ganapati. It is reported also that some of his farmans to Hindu Jagirdars always used to begin with an invocation of Saraswati. Whenever he issued a farman for a Hindu Jagirdar or a noble and so on and so forth, the invocation also used to serve with this particular term. The Nimbalkars of Palthan, the Ghorpars of Badhol, distinguished themselves in the services of the Adil Shahi rulers. The revenue and accounts department were totally in the hands of the Hindus, as I said earlier. In case of the Qutb Shahis with the Brahmins, and in case of Adil Shahis it was with the Marathas, because that particular region was Maratha region. Pandharpur, one of the seats of high learning in Hinduism, in Hindu religion, in the Adil Shahi kingdom, was never disturbed, but in fact it was allowed to flourish. A Hindu priestly class were permitted to practice their profession, and their hereditary rights were upheld according to the Hindu law. Their annual fair and jatras, which were held with great pomp and dignity. Ali Adil Shah held philosophical debates and discussions with the Hindu sannyasis. He invited Catholic missionaries to his court. he extended grants to the places of worship and scholars without the distinction of caste, creed and religion. The tradition of composite culture in the Deccan reached its zenith during the Asif Jai period. You are all aware of the fact that there were 7 rulers. The first ruler, Chin Khuli Khan, who was given the title of Chin Khuli Khan, was Nizam-ul-Mulk Asif Jai I. It was he who consolidated the kingdom. The second, third and fourth and fifth were good for nothing. And the 6th and the 7th, during their period, the Asif Jai state flourished. The tradition established by the 6th Nizam regarding grants to temples, mosques, Ashur Khanas, churches and to the holy personages continued during the times of the 7th Nizam as well. These grants can be classified into several categories. I have worked for 1 full year in archives to collect only the farmans issued by the 7th Nizam under his signature and seal, and I was astonished to note there are hundreds of documents available in the checkered books in archives where only which relate to grants given to temples, pujaris, mathas, churches, Ashur Khanas, mosques, khankhas, Sufis and whatnot. So what is important is these documents which are there in this particular archive. 16 million original papers are sitting in archives, but nobody has time to go and look at that. Not even the PhD scholars working in different departments of Osmania University, Maulana Azad National University, Central University, not a single scholar has gone there to see those 16 million original papers. Believe it or not. आप जिस चीज़ को हाथ लगाए तो एक नई चीज़ है, रेयर चीज़ है. But the fact is, it is very much there lying. Nobody is using that. The grants can be classified into several categories. First grant, which was given by the Nizam, first category of the grants which was given by the 7th Nizam, Mir Usman Ali Khan Bahadur, relates to the temples, mathas, pandits, pujaris, sadhus, jatras, ojha melas, agnihotris, naveed and nanddeep. These are the various functions which are held by the non-Muslims of the Nizam state of Hyderabad. First category of the documents is this. The second category relates to receptions which were accorded whenever a Hindu guru, a pandit or a preacher came and visited Hyderabad. They were not only received with great honor, distinction, but all expenses were taken care of. While they were going, while they stayed in Hyderabad, they stayed in the as guests of the Nizam, 7th Nizam of Hyderabad. While they were going, all expenses were taken care by the 7th Nizam of Hyderabad. The third category of the grants was for the Hindu institutions, both religious and secular. The fourth category of grants relate to the sanctions for the publication of Mahabharata. You will be surprised to note that Dartul Marif, which was established in 1888 by the 6th Nizam of Hyderabad, has translated Mahabharata into Arabic. It is very much sitting there. If you have a time, you can go and visit and see. It is very much there in Dartul Marif. Lastly, the fifth type of grants which relate to are expenditures incurred on the excavation of Hindu archaeological monuments, right? Their repairs and preservation. Sixthly, the grants for the publication of Sanskrit, Kannada and Telugu inscriptions which were in the wells, in the temples, in different places which were scattered all over the place. A team was constituted to look out, take it out and then read it and then print them. All of them have been printed. All these inscriptions which relate to temples, wells and so on and so forth during the period of 7th Nizam are very much available to you in the Department of Archaeology, which is next to Aliyah High School, Abbots, Nizam, in front of Nizam College. Also you should remember that last being the facility which was extended to the Hindu employees of the state. What I am trying to tell you is 3 months leave with full salary was given to Muslims to go to Makkah and Medina. The same thing was applied to all non-Muslims who were working in the state to go to Kashinath, Badrinath and other places of religious importance. They were given also 3 months on par with full salary. So to visit all these particular people. I am not speaking in air. There are documents relating to that which are sitting in archives. If anybody would like to verify that, You can kindly go and see that. The archival record shows an amount of 15,357 9 anna 6 paise hali was granted to Purnamal Sahu to meet the expenses of Puja, Naveed and Nandadeep at the temple of Dudrajaraj Swami located within the premises of Sitarambagh temple, which is located in Hyderabad. Also you should remember, according to a farman which is available also, that Balgavan and Akoli in the Berar districts was given as an atiya to this temple. The income of this temple used to be, the income of these two jagirs used to be 60,000 rupees per annum in late 1927 or 20s or 30s. Big amount. Also you should remember, according to Dr. Sheila Raj, during the times of Mir Usman Ali Khan, not only the upkeep of temples was taken up, but grants were given for the daily pujas. Some of the prominent temples which were sanctioned grants was a temple called of Onkar, 630 rupees, Balaji Mandapet, 630, Shankarba, 909, and Golnath temple, 1090 rupees. These were the grants which were sanctioned. To this effect, we have the farmans of the 7th Nizam of Hyderabad. The Bhadrachalam temple received annual grant of 19,463 in British currency, and famous Balaji Tirupati temple received 10,070 per annum. Both these were fixed grant given by the 7th Nizam of Hyderabad. Apart from grants for the temple mentioned above, we also come across instances where pujaris, sadhus, they visited the town of Hyderabad to preach and to deliver lectures. Farman dated 15 Jamadiul Awwal 1353, corresponding to 12th August 1934, shows that an amount of 500 per month for life was given to Dudri Baba, a sadhu of Sangam village in Nanded district. The Farman dated 16 Jamadiul Awwal 1367, corresponding to 1946, relates to the interim fixation of annual grant of rupees 600 per annum for a period of 2 years for the Baikwanath temple in Nanded. Likewise, all those dignitaries who visited Hyderabad, particularly the Hindus who visited, the Hindu scholars who visited Hyderabad, they were given grants and so on and so forth. Likewise, when he travelled to Calcutta to meet the British governor at that place, it is reported that he gave a present of Zarbaft, a tent of Zarbaft made of Zarbaft बोलते क्या बोलते हैं Zarbaft is a cotton type of thing, बहुत अच्छा कपड़ा जो रहता था उसका टेंट बना के दिए वो पुजारी साहब को, and dakshina to the pujari of the Kali temple at that particular place. I have hundreds and thousands of such farmans. I will not go into that, but I will tell you that the important temples which were excavated, preserved and redone by the Nizam, one among them was 1,000-pillar temple in Warangal, from where I hail. This type of 1,000-pillar temple which stands down is because of the effort of the Nizam, and it is reported that the secretary wrote a letter to the officials who were on the site that issuing grants means nothing. Implementation of this particular excavation and repair is the key, and therefore I need to get report every week as to what type of work you have done. That was the importance of that 1,000-pillar temple in the site of these particular rulers of that particular time. Also you should remember that Ajanta Ellora caves, which are Buddhist caves, which were in a dilapidated condition, a team of Italian experts and French experts were invited. Even people who look into the repairs of these type of things were invited from London. Ghulam Yazdani Sahab, the grandfather of my friend Asad Yazdani, was deputed, who was appointed as the chief archaeologist of this particular Hyderabad state, was deputed along with them to go to Ajanta and Ellora caves to repair them and to restore them. They did it in years. After 3-4 years of long hard work, that was restored, And it is reported that he ordered that all the paintings which are there in these two caves should be published in color in a form of album. And therefore you should remember that this, for the publication of this album, 1,500 pounds were sanctioned by the 7th Nizam of Hyderabad, and Yazdani was deputed to London with full salary for a period of 3 months to see that it is published properly. This is published and it is very much there in the archaeology department at Abbott's. Also you should remember, in 1926-1927, a loan of 4,000 was sanctioned for the compilation of 150 color plates of Ajanta also. It was also published from London. In the year 1927-1928, several monuments were surveyed, including 2 temples along the old dam at Pangal, 2 miles northeast of Nalgonda, and also surveyed was the big Shiva temple at Naganur, 6 miles northeast of Karimnagar, and a number of temples at Manthani, reported to be the great seat of learning for the Hindus, where the sage Gautama once performed tapas. It is that particular important place which has been restored by the 7th Nizam of Hyderabad. Extending patronage to language and literature, the 7th Nizam approved the request of Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute of Pune for a grant. It is reported that not only a grant of 10,000 per annum was sanctioned, but a guest house in the name of Nizam's guest house was constructed there, for which a separate grant was given. When the work did not complete, he again sanctioned some money so that the guest house is completed, and that the institute was ordered to print Mahabharata for the common use of people. Hundreds and thousands of copies were published, the grant which was sanctioned by the Nizam, and free distribution was done at that particular point of time. Professor Subbarao, who was the president of the Telugu Academy, approached the 7th Nizam of Hyderabad and requested that some amount should be sanctioned for the publication of the Telugu books from the Telugu Academy. And it is reported that 4,000 rupees were given for the publication of the books, and a grant of 2,000 rupees per annum was also sanctioned. It is reported that in 1916-1917, proposal was put up for the conservation of the temple of Palampet, Upparapalli, Anva, and Buddhist cave of Ellora. You should remember that 1 lakh rupees was sanctioned for Banaras Hindu University. Likewise, 1 lakh rupees were sanctioned by to the Andhra University, Aligarh Muslim University, Bhandarkar Institute, and Shanti Niketan. Each of these secular and non-secular institutions were given 1 lakh rupees grant in 27-28, huge money at that particular point of time. Apart from these grants, a large number of non-Muslims who were part of the day-to-day administration of the state, they were not required to pay any tax, whether Muslims or non-Muslims. No tax was collected from their income at that particular point of time. I also need to tell you that all this was happening during the Baimani, Qutub Shahi, Adil Shahi and Asif Jahi period. Another important section of the society was those of the Sufis. It is reported that Sufis in this region called Deccan, the Chishtis and the Khadris, particularly these are out of the 14 Sufi orders, there are 2 prominent Sufi orders. One is the Chishti order. In North India during the Sultanate period, Sohrawardi order. In Deccan, it was Chishtis and the Khadri orders which were prominent at that particular time. They were the people who set example for the ethical, moral society. I'd like to narrate one incident of Sheikh Zainuddin Shirazi. It is reported that Sheikh Zainuddin Shirazi refused to acknowledge the rule of Muhammad Shah I of the Bahmani kingdom. The governor of Daulatabad revolted against the authority of Muhammad Shah, who was sitting in his capital at Gulbarga. It is reported that he marched with a big army to capture this man who has revolted, or to catch hold of him. It is reported that when this man came to know that the army is coming, he ran to the shrine of house of Sheikh Zainuddin Shirazi, who was a big Chishti Sufi at that particular point of time, and took his advice. And he said, you should leave this place. Either you ask for pardon or you should leave. You should leave towards Gujarat, cross the boundaries. By the time Muhammad Shah the first came, he has already disappeared into Gujarat. He was not able to cut. But people went and told the ruler, Muhammad Shah, that he did not recognize you when you were taking the seat, and it is because of his blessings that they have saved their lives. So orders, a Parman was sent to him, an order was sent to him, either you come in person or send it in writing that you recognize me as your ruler. He refused, and he said, and he told the Harkara who had come, I like to tell you the story, he said. There were three persons, one was a non-Muslim, one was a Muslim, no, one was a non-Muslim, one was a Sayyid, and the third was a eunuch. All the three were captured by the non-Muslim. They were taken to a temple and asked to bow down before the deity. The eunuch said, I have done all bad things throughout my life, I will not do this. And he was beheaded. The Sayyid bowed down, and who was the third? And the Sufi bowed down. The Alim and the Sayyid bowed down. And he said, I am like a eunuch. Neither I will come to you, nor I will send in writing, until and unless you implement the ethics and morality as per the rules of Islam, as per the Quran. He said, you must stop the drinking wine shops all over the place, close them, and the highway robbers to be taken care of, because large number of people are dying, and there was a third something. All the three were implemented by the ruler at that particular point of time, and he came very close to the Sufi saint at that particular time. These were the Sufis who preached love, justice, equality, brotherhood in this particular region. The other important saint was Khaja Bandanawaz of Gulbarga, who is the author of 105 books. He used to have discussions and debates with the Hindu yogis and munis and rishis. These discussions are available to you in his Malfuzat, oral sayings, printed now under the title Jawamilul Kalam. So these are the type of people who used to be there. And the Sufis of Bijapur, Burhanuddin Janam, and many others, they took this particular Sufi cult to the rural folks, to the women and so on and so forth. Chakki Nama, Charkha Nama, different type of books were written, and it was sent to these particular people. So they preached the concept of love, brotherhood, equality, and so on and so forth. This kind of society existed at that particular point of time. The rulers, the people, the Muslims, the non-Muslims, the yogis, the saints, the Sufis, all live together. Things have changed. Why they have changed? Because things are becoming mundane. We have forgotten our religion. Nothing is available to us. This particular transformation and transition which is taking place in the society is dangerous. The type of ethics which we have, we are not ready to give 4 annas to a person who comes near the signal near your car. Yeah, panleda, nadu, gatiga unnaguda, pani chesukobo. These are the type of sentences we are speaking. We are not ready to do anything ethical, moral, which is good for the society. Things are deteriorating day by day. Morality has vanished. Ethics has vanished. Only mundane aspect remains. I hope things will change for the good. Thank you very much. Any questions, please? The paper is open. You can ask any question, please.
Good evening, Professor. So I just wanted to know, did the separation of the Sufi orders from their northern counterparts create any differences or particular characteristics in the Deccan Sufis, for example?
Yes. Good question. There were important two aspects in which the story was quite different when compared to the North Indian Sufis. Starting from Khaja Moinuddin Chishti till Nasiruddin Chirag Delvi, there was no hereditary succession. Are you listening to me? There was no hereditary section. But here, hereditary succession came into picture because 121 Jagirs with full revenue were given by one Farman to the descendant of Bandhanavas. Because they, instead of becoming Sufis, became the Inamdars, rich people. And after all that, once the death of Bandhanavas takes place, there is a big problem for the succession. So why problem for succession? 121 Jagirs with full revenue. All sorts of luxuries were all available to them. That was the first important change which took place between North India and South India, and Deccan. The second important thing is that Sufism disappeared totally after first generation of Sufis who came in 700 Planquins and second batch of 700 Planquins and then Bandhanavas. And then from there onwards, all the descendants, they were totally Inamdar, they were descendants, they were rich people. I will give you an example. Safirullah Hussaini, the grandson of Bandhanavas, was a Sipasalar in the army of Ahmad Shah Wali Beg. He was holding a big post at that particular time. And it was also, I must tell you, that not only that they were appointed in army and so on and so forth, not only that they were given Jagirs, but they were also given great titles at that particular time. Yes. Any other question, please?
Sir, any connection on Bhakti movement and Sufi movement?
Yes. Good question again.
Thank you.
Bhakti movement was one of the important movements which started somewhere around 15th, 16th century. But the fact is, we don't have any contemporary source. Later sources are there. But there we have no contemporary source to tell you that Sufism impacted the Bhakti movement. It is said in the later sources, not the original sources or contemporary sources, that there was a great impact on the Bhakti movement of the Sufi cult. Because Sufis, they believe in the concept of love, equality, brotherhood and so on and so forth. Similar things are to be found in the Bhakti movement. Particularly the concept of love is very much there in the Bhakti movement. That's what I can say.
Professor here.
Yes, okay.
Sir, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Sarmad and Darashiko.
One is Darashiko and the other one is?
Sarmad.
I don't know much about Sarmad, but I can tell you about Darashiko. The Safinatul Awliya and Sakinatul Awliya, which were written by Darashiko at that particular point of time, is definitely the impact of the mystics and the Sufis. And these are the two important books which relate to that 16th, 17th century, which tell us that the things were going in a different shape. And while Darashiko was very much there and compiled these two important books, which are with the mythology of which is different when compared to the orthodox books which we find in the Muslims, among the Muslims or in Islam. Yes.
Was there any other kingdom before independence within the Indian subcontinent that had an established institution like the Department of Archaeology, which was there in the Hyderabad state?
Most probably.
But I have not heard of that anywhere else.
Even.
And that continued, I think, post absorption into the Indian Republic. But was there any other kingdom which had thought of dedicating a separate department
The
to that?
Rajas and Maharajas of Mysore, if I remember correctly, they did so. And they established a museum and a department there to look after the ancient monuments and so on and so forth, apart from the Nizam. Yes.
Any relationship of Guru Nanak with the Sufis of Deccan?
Yes. It is also said that in the contemporary sources it is said that Guru Nanak was greatly influenced by Baba Fariduddin, Sheikh Baba Fariduddin of the third great Chishti Sufi in the line of the Chistis, from Khaja Moinuddin to Bakhtiyar Kaki and then Fariduddin Ganj Shakar. And Fariduddin Ganj, the dohas of Fariduddin Ganj Shakar are still sung in the Gurdwaras. And it is reported that there was a big influence of this Sufi Sheikh on the Sikh movement.
Thank you very much for such an enlightening. Yeah, thank you very much. Just a question.
Yes.
Now, with regards to the pluralism and the impact of Sufism on societies, or Sufis at large in societies, So when we stand today in 2024, and when we see the whatever the Sufism is there available in terms of practices amongst the Muslim societies, and when, because your lecture is focusing on Deccan, so I'll keep it on Deccan itself. So what do you feel the current status is? Why, whether it is okay or you're happy with it, and if you're not happy, what should be the revivalism for that?
There is no revival in this. It's not possible because it is totally mundane. Biryani khao, khawali suno, so jao. Biryani khao, khawali suno, so jao. The original Sufis, what they had said, kam guftan, kam khurdan, kam chostan. Sleep less, talk less, eat less. यहाँ full खा रहे हैं, full खवाली सुन रहे हैं, full सो रहे हैं. तीन और reverse है. So there is no Sufism. What is available today is these dargahs which we see all over the Deccan. They are nothing but the centers of customs, culture. Professor Trimmingham in his great book called as Introduction to Sufism, Sufism in Islam, writes that Sufism has passed through three phases. The first phase is the Sharia phase. The second phase is the Khanqa phase. And the third phase is the Taifa phase. I will explain you this. The first phase is the Sharia phase, means that all the Sufis of that great early period remained within the confines of the Quran and Hadith, within the boundaries of Sharia. They never went out of that. But once Islam crossed the boundaries of Arabia, came into Iran, then came into Central Asia, which is called as, kya hai wo? Abhi nahi aa raha. Across the river, Oxus. Okay, it may come. Once we crossed the boundaries of Arabia, came into Iran, and then came into Central Asia, then came into India, then came into Southeast Asia, Africa, and so on and so forth, the Sufis started imbibing the local culture and local customs, leading to some kind of a transition and transformation in the original Sufism. Number of customs and number of rituals were incorporated into Sufism. Sandal mari ho rahi hai, हरा झंडा चढ़ रहा है, 7 दिन पहले 30 दिन पहले झंडा चढ़ रहा है. All customs which are taking place are only rituals. You go all over the state, you go North India even, only rituals remain. Sufism has disappeared. Second phase is this, imbibing it from the local cultures, Iranian culture, Central Asian, African, and so on and so forth. Also I must tell you that the third phase is Taifa phase according to Trimmingham, and the Taifa is nothing but saint culthood. What is it? I hope it explains everything. Saint culthood. So what we see is saint culthood. There is no Sufism. Sufism वो है जिसके अंदर आप भूखे मरना, रात इबादत करना, अल्लाह अल्लाह करना, कम बोलना, टर 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 24 घंटे टर टर नहीं करना, जागीरा नहीं लेना, बादशाहों के करीब नहीं रहना. Even Malfuz of Nizamuddin Awliya, Banda Nawaz, it is called, there is a book there. It says that one should not live in the locality where the nobility lives. One should not go to the kings. One should not take their grants. Fariduddin Ganshakar was given 2 bighas of land. 2 bighas is a small piece of land. He said, others are desirous of this. What has this to do with the faqir? It explains everything. It explains the real Sufism, the spirit of Sufism. Nizamuddin Awliya, Alauddin Khilji said, I would like to meet you. He said, no, thank you very much. What has the faqir to do with your Badshah? I don't want to meet you. So people said, he has come up to this point, he has come up to this point. And he said, he has reached your Khanqa almost. So he said, in my Khanqa there are 2 doors. One is on the back side and one on the front side. If he enters from that door, I will leave from this door. If he enters from this door, I will leave from that door. I will also give you an example. Same Fariduddin Ganshakar. 30,000 gold coins were sent by a ruler to Fariduddin Ganshakar. He refused. He said, thank you very much, not required. Faqir has nothing to do with this. Again the Harkara came with the same thaili. And he said, the ruler says that you have to take this thaili or else he will chop off your head. He said, fine, keep it outside my Khanqa, leave it there. And he asked his disciples and Khulafa to look what he has in his Khanqa, in his monastery. So they found 3 तांबे के पत्ते, छोटे छोटे पुराने पैसे, वो बोले उसमें मिलाओ और वहीं रखो, वहीं से डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दो, अंदर नहीं आना। और वो सब मगरिब के वक्त डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हो गया पूरा। तो पूछे बात हर चीज़ हो गई ख़त्म? तो हाँ, वही ख़त्म हो। नमाज के वास्ते पढ़ाते थे हमेशा, हमें नमाज खड़े रहे, अल्लाह अकबर। अरे थोड़ी देर के बाद अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाह, अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाह। नमाज पढ़ाती ही नहीं, अल्लाह अकबर बोलते नमाज ख़त्म कर देते, अल्लाह अकबर बोलते नमाज ख़त्म कर दे। एक सीनियर खलीफा थे, उनके पास गए, जाके बोले ये मैं 40 साल से आपके पीछे नमाज़ पढ़ रहा हूँ, ये आप क्या कर रहे हैं? तो उन्होंने बोले जाके ढूंढो कि वो बादशाह की कहीं पैसे है खानखा में, नमाज में दिल नहीं लग रहा। तो ढूंढे, खंदीला लेके ढूंढे, मगरिब का वक्त हो गया था। तो ढूंढे तो बोले कहीं सर कुछ भी नहीं है। खुद खंदील लेके ढूंढे, वो दरवाजे को ऐसा हटाए तो उसके पीछे एक कान पड़ी हुई थी, वो उठा के हाथ से बाहर फेंके और आके जो है नमाज़ पढ़ाए। और 3 दिन और 3 रात तक रोते रहे और ये बोलते रहे कि मैं अल्लाह मियाँ को क्या जवाब दूंगा कि ये हराम के पैसों के साथ लगाए। ये सूफीज़म है, इसको बोलते सूफीज़म। नॉट दोज इनामदार्स विथ 121 जागीर्स विथ फुल रेवेन्यू। सो rightly trimming has said this is nothing but taifa phase, saint culthood phase. You have asked my personal opinion, so I am telling you this is only saint culthood. इसमें कुछ नहीं है, तसव्वुफ नहीं है, कम खुर्दन, कम सोख्तन, कम होतन सब चलेगा। There is nothing left and it cannot be revived. It can be revived only when there is no mundane aspect, when there is no money. वो नहीं होता, वो नहीं हुआ तो वो नहीं आता। Thank you.
So in the interest
Yes,
of
please.
the time, we can collect some questions.
No problem. Yes.
Professor, before I ask my question, the word that you were forgetting was that transoxania? Darya par jo bol rahe the aap, was that transoxania?
Oh, no.
No? Okay.
It was.
Anyways, I'll come to my question.
Yes.
So the topic today...
Sorry, it was Mawaraun Nahar, that is across the river, on the above side of the river, where there is Samarkand, Bukhara, Tashkand, where Bukhari is buried, where Mawardi, the great rationalist, is buried.
Fair enough.
All that history of the Muslims from Central Asia has been wiped out by the Tsars of Russia and the Russians. I had visited the Tashkent and Samarkand to read a paper there. There is nothing available there except a big mosque.
Okay. So when we talk about composite culture, we also hear some other terms which are used interchangeably, like syncretic culture, pluralism. In your opinion, all these three, are they the same or are there minor nuances that differentiate the three?
Most of them, they revolve around the concept of love, equality, justice, which is missing all over the place. You look into Bhakti movement, you looked into Shankaracharya's movement, you look into any other Hindu movement, or you look into Sikhism, they are all influenced by these. ऐसा है सर, इस्लाम, मुसलमान, हिंदू, फलां, पारसी, कुछ नहीं है, सब एक ही हैं. But this time, the way we have lived, the way things are moving, अब या मैं हिंदू हो गया, आप मुसलमान हो गए, आप मुसलमान हो गए, मैं हिंदू हो गया, उन्हें पारसी हो गया, यूँ देखे तो यूँ देखते, दाढ़ी रहे तो यूँ देखते. सब एक ही है, हर चीज़ एक ही है. You remember, we should feel that we are all together and we have lived together. Sir, first communal right took place in 1930s. मुसलमान कब से हैं? मोहम्मद बिन कासिम को भी पकड़ लिया आप, वहाँ से भी अगर आप पकड़ लिए, that is 712. From 712 to 1950 तक कोई कम्युनल राइट नहीं हुआ. सब मुसलमान रूलर ही थे ना, क्या परेशानी थी? 1930 के बाद क्यों हुआ? ज़रा गौर करिए. Yes.
Thank you, Professor, for your talk. My question is regarding the relationship between the Sultan and Sufis. But I want to know, like, how different was it in the Delhi Sultanate and the Bahmani Sultanate? Because in Delhi Sultanate, as far as I know, they used to give them lot of, they used to recognize them a lot. But the same thing, whether it happened or not in Deccan.
Yes. During the Delhi period, 712, Muhammad bin Qasim, first Muslim kingdom in North India was the Ghaznavis, then the Ghauris, followed by the slave kingdoms, followed by the Khiljis, followed by the Tughlaqs, the Sayyids, the Pathans and the Lodhis. And then comes Babar in 1526. Up till 1526 from 712, this period is referred to as Sultanate period in India. Why it is referred to as Sultanate period in India? Because the sultans were ruling. And Nizam al-Mulk Tusi has given the theory of as-sultanu zillullah fil ars. Sultan क्या है? ये zillullah Allah मियाँ का निशान वो है, साया है. He has his own theory, which is called political theory, only to give importance and significance to the sultan. So आना, वो करना, 7 फरसी सलाम मारना, निज़ाम के पीरियड तक चला, सबको मालूम है. और आते वक्त 7 अशरफियाँ लेके आना, नहीं तो नहीं आ सकते अंदर. That's why he became the richest man of the world. So, very good question which you have raised. What was the attitude of the Sufis towards the rulers of Sultanate period, and what is the difference between that and this? The Chishtis in Sultanate period, there were 2 important orders. One was the Chishtis, the other was the Sohrawardis. The Chishtis were the one who said, don't go near the rulers. They give you the jagirs, they give you the rupiahs, and they want you to do what they want. Don't live in their localities. Don't look at them. Don't accept anything. When one of the rulers gave a jagir to one of the Sufi saints, he said, this will be useful for your administration, keep it to yourself. I don't want this. And a Sufi said, if a person comes to your monastery and if you even don't offer a glass of water, that man is as if he has visited a dead person. यही है भक्ति मूवमेंट में भी, यही है सिक्किमिज्म में भी. ये जो आप लंगर देख रहे हैं, ह्यूज लंगर ऑल ओवर द प्लेस, कहाँ से आए ये कॉन्सेप्ट? यस, इट्स ऑल फ्रॉम देयर, 14th सेंचुरी से. आज नई चीज़ नहीं है ये. कोई बोलेंगे साहब आप ये क्या शुरू करें ड्रामा, ड्रामा रहा नहीं है. दिस इज़ द फैक्ट एंड द रियलिटी. वो जो लंगर है वो कॉन्सेप्ट से है. वो क्या, अगर आपके पास कोई आदमी आया और अगर आप एक गिलास पानी का भी नहीं पिलाए, तो एज इफ ही हैज़ विजिटेड ए डेड पर्सन. द चेंज, द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द Sohrawardis वर क्लोजर टू द रूलर्स, एंड दे यूज्ड टू से, इफ वी डोंट remain closer to him, how will we transform him? How will we change him? How will we bring him back into the fold of Islam? It is essential for us that we should do this duty. On the contrary, the Chishtis of Sultanate period, they said, no, उनका ने गए तो ख़त्म कर देता हूँ तुम्हारा. The curtain hangs between you and your reality. पर्दा पड़ जाता बोलते थे वो लोग. You cannot go from mujahida to mushahida, from mushahida to maqam to mukhal, hal, taba, riza, fana, baqa. These are the stages which the Sufi goes. If you create any relationship with this man, there is a curtain between you and your reality. Our reality with R capital, God. You cannot reach reality until unless you remain on your own. The Chishtis, they preach, those who are interested in learning Sufism should first bring wood from the jungle for a period of 3 months. मरो जाके जंगल से लकड़ी उठा के लाओ. रोज़ाना चूल्हा जलाने के से 3 महीने लकड़ी लाओ. उसके बाद उसकी एंट्री होती थी खानका में, उससे पहले एंट्री होने नहीं देते थे. सोहरवर्दियों का वो एटीट्यूड है, चिश्तियों का ये एटीट्यूड है. Did you get the point? Yes.
Okay, so in the interest of the time, we will wrap it up, sir. Thank you so very much for your lucid and wonderful, lecture that you have given.
Thank you.
So, before you leave, there is a small token of love, gratitude, and appreciation from Lamakaan. Raja is going to hand it over to you. So, kindly accept. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next event is going to happen in 10 minutes. We will do some rejig here, so kindly cooperate with us. There will be some change in the seating arrangement.